So as I was saying, that this film is my research has been about persons with dementia, and my background is as a musician, and this idea of home is something that has become important to me because I see home as also being a proxy for memory. So the idea of persons with Alzheimer's is they lose their memory of the people that they love, and their earliest memories are the ones that they hold on to. And with music, what is amazing about it is that you can play them music that was important to them from when they were in their 20s or maybe their teens, and melodies are maintained in the memory. So what I'm doing with this interview, I'm interviewing people with various different backgrounds, and I'm asking questions about their backgrounds, their earliest memories. So I'm going to ask you some questions that at first will seem a little bit like, well, why is he asking me that? And then we'll get into your background in health and music. So, can we begin? Please tell me your name.
My name is Dr. Suvarna Nalapat.
Where did you grow up?
Grew up in the same place here in Columbia, nearby to this Guruvayur.
So you were a native Carolite?
Kerala.
Can you tell for me the first memory that you have from when you were as small as you can recall?
Yeah. I was about the age 2.5 or 3, at that age. We had actually very nearby, we had a small talkies, film talkies, theatre. So from there, in the evening, music will be played. I started to hear M.S. Subbulakshmi's Meera Bhajans, that is from the Bhakta Meera film. So the first memory is that actually I just listened to that memory. Then there was another, without the sound, I heard some sort of a noise, which was all the time it was heard, is that of the sea. Our home is actually about 5 to 6 miles away from the sea. But in those times there were no houses like this. From our house, the sea actually seemed to be very nearby. In the night, when you sleep, this sound of these waves will come to your ear, and it will act as something like a lullaby to you. Then one day, when I was searching there is a 3rd floor in our old house. When I was searching the old articles there, I got a large conch. Conch. It's actually here now. I will show it to you.
Yes, please.
It is here. When I as a child, I was so curious. No, at that time it was difficult for me to take it up. Now it is easy, but at that time, so I will just go and keep my ears close to the conch. I will hear, that type of, just like the sound of the sea. The shell had been for several thousands and millions of years under the sea. It had imbibed the music of the ocean into its heart, and that was being imparted to me as a child. These are my earliest memories. It is not about anything that is related to human beings, but about these things.
I have a similar background because I grew up right on the water as well, and one of my first homes, it was right on a beach, and there's many different types of beaches, and this one had, rather than a sand beach, it had these large rocks, and so when the waves came in, it would be this, and out, and the lullaby feel, being able to go to sleep with that as a child, and during the summer. I mean, where I grew up, it was near Boston. It would cold during the winter, and during the summer, it would open the windows, and to have that sound all throughout the night.
The sound of the breeze, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, especially in this part. If you probably you have been here for how many?
5 months.
5 months. Especially in this part, that is Guruvayur Punyakkulam, this area. Especially this season, the wind, the breeze has a special character. Early in the morning, if you just listen, you will hear that music of the spheres actually through the wind. Because these are the forerunners of our. Actually, the two types of monsoons. Both have different types of music for both winds. And people in this part of the world, Kerala people, they are actually lucky people not because of any other things, but this monsoon comes to us regularly twice a year to give these different types of musical sounds. They are actually lucky. Just actually now you can hear that sound.
Yes. And can you tell me just a little bit more? Can you describe to me your mother and father?
My father, actually he was noted, I don't want to use the word politician, she's a social worker, because he was in the Nehru Kamaraj era, not of this era. So I would like to call him a sociological or sociopolitical worker. He was a farmer, but he took a BABL from Madras University, but he didn't work as a lawyer, but instead he came to work as a farmer in these coal fields. Here it is, the coal fields of this Malabar is very famous. And so in this area he was a very, very good social worker, so that everybody, irrespective of the caste, creed or anything, everybody respected him. He was a very respected person. And he was part of the Art Shankar ministry, that party, at that time that he was. And one of his, my childhood memories, it is also there. He loved music, dance, poetry, and drama, everything. He was a very great lover of all this. Actually, he used to bring drama troops and all, and they used to stay with us. And because in those times there was no other place to stay. But in our Bengal only they used to stay. And among them, when I remember, this today's Yeshuda's father, Augustine Joseph, used to come for Nalladanga and all. And my mother says that Yeshudas also had come as a small kid to Nalladanga. There are children being thrown into the well and all, no? I don't remember that. I can't remember that boy, but I can remember his father. So he used to sing beautiful songs, Rafi songs and all. The Saigal songs, everything we used to sing and all. So our childhood, and my father also will recite poems. So ours was actually a very musical, literary background. And
I find Malayalam to be. My family's Dutch, and as European languages go, it's similar to German, but I find German to be more of a guttural language, whereas Dutch has a little bit more of a singing. But when it comes to Malayalam, it not only sings, but it sounds to me like water. Like the way
the
way
word itself is Malayalam. No? Even that has got a wavy thing.
Exactly. And your mother, can you tell me?
My mother belongs to a very famous literary family. Nalapat is a very famous literary family. My mother's grand uncle, Nalapat Narayan Menon, was actually we call him the Rishi Kavi, because he was, Rishi means a sage, no?
Yeah.
A sage poet. He was a great philosopher, a theosophist. Actually his poems can be compared to W.B. Yeats. W.B. Yeats' Vision and all, Irish Vision, his book Vision, and those types of writings are his, but I don't think that Malayalam people have ever compared him to that. Only if you know English literature also you can compare that. No, that has not yet happened. But as I know both, I think that he has to be actually compared to that, not to the common poets here. Common poets doesn't have that sort of very intense philosophical, ideological background. He had that. So his niece My mother and my mother's elder sister both are his nieces. Of this, the elder sister, that is my mother's sister, became Saraswati Samman Padma Vibhushan holder, a great poet. My mother was actually a shadow of my father. She was doing all the social work which my father was interested in. That is why how I became interested in social work. They were doing all sorts of work for the geriatric people, for the downtrodden women, for children who are destitutes, everybody, and for people who doesn't have a job, everybody had a place in our house. It was my house, my father's house was not a house, it was not a home, it was an institution. I would call it an institution, but because I could see people from different castes, different sexes, different age groups coming there, getting relief. It was a palliative care which was being done in our home. So I am interested in that. That is why I became a doctor as well. I didn't become a doctor just because I want to make money. Most of the people now are becoming doctors just to get something out of it. But I became a doctor because my father wanted me to become a doctor and to serve the people in his country. That is why.
I came to social work in a similarly familial fashion. My wife, she is a social worker. Her parents are both social workers. Her aunt was a great social worker who taught at the School of Social Work at University of Southern California. And my background was music, and when we were dating on the way to getting married, I thought to myself, well, I really want to get a master's in a program, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So at first I had a brain injury when I was 27, and after that, during my recovery, I worked with children.
You were in a coma?
I think for a few days, yeah. And I had a stroke and I had brain surgery. And after that, for about 10 years, I worked with
Now,
children.
how old are you?
I'm 42.
So 27 to 42 years back.
Yeah, so it was 2003 that happened. And so I worked for about 10 years with youth in schools, teaching them music and giving them programs. And so after that, when I met my wife, I said, well, I want to get a master's degree. First I thought, I'll look to see if I can get a master's in music therapy. And there are a number of music therapy programs, but there aren't master's programs. So when I was looking, this looks like social work, so I said, why not just get a social work degree, and I'll figure it out from there. And then in that process, I found out from my mother, she had actually gotten a social work degree in Belgium, and she had practiced as a social worker for the Belgian Air Force until she came to America, but that's another story. So when I came to the School of Social Work, my interest was, I find that social work is a very plastic field. By that I mean it's useful everywhere, and its use depends upon what the needs are of the people.
Yeah.
So if there is poverty, then there is need for help for people with poverty. If there is need for people who are elderly, then social work helps there. For children in schools, it goes wherever it goes. In my background, I had this brain injury, so I got a real interest in the problems of neurological disorders as they affected patients and also social workers. So how do social workers interact with patients with this type of disorder? Because most social workers, either they don't have the neurological training, or they just don't have experience with persons who have that type of disorder. So what my hope was to open a door into this. So at first I worked with patients who had a traumatic brain injury, and I also worked with patients with post-traumatic stress disorder, military patients. And then finally, I was working in a hospice care clinic, and a very high percentage of persons in hospice care have dementia or Alzheimer's disease. And I went and saw a patient, and I knew that her son, she was 90 years old, she could not remember her son, she couldn't remember her husband, and anytime I would see her, I would say, "Hi Trudy, how's it going?" And she would just be laying down, and she'd say, I'm sleepy. But I knew from her son that she really loved the music of the big band jazz from the 1940s and 50s.
Which she had been familiar with.
Yes.
That is the...
So what happened?
The crux of it.
So what happened was that I got my phone, and I had a speaker, and I used YouTube, and I played her this one song. And immediately she woke up, she sat up, and then she could sing the lyrics. Before the song had even started, there was the melody that would play before the lyrics started. She could sing the whole lyrics. And I was levitating off my chair. And after that, I tried another song. And I could do this with her, with so many different songs. And then I was able to do this with other patients. And then with Professor Nair, he said, "Well, why don't you apply for a Fulbright? Go to India." Because my background was I had studied Carnatic music when I was in music school. A bit. I mean, I'm not.
A small piece, can you just, which one you?
Ta di ki na tun. 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 I'm not that great. I can play a little kanjira. I can play a number of instruments, not so well, but I developed a real love for it. But so my reason for coming to Kerala was to see if I could do this work with patients that aren't English speakers. So I've worked to develop a music library of music that was very popular to Malayali during the 1950s and 1960s, mostly Bollywood songs, some songs outside of there. And that is the purpose of this. But the main thing to think about it is that this is a protocol to help social workers be able to do this work with persons with Alzheimer's, because there's no money to help these patients, and as of yet there's no cure, and nobody knows what to do. So if doctors help, they do what they do, nurses help, but social workers have a special place where they can really work with the families.
Actually, the family is very important in elderly, in geriatric care. The reason is, probably you have seen this book. This book I have written while I was in Amrita as a professor of pathology. So, on music therapy. Now, in this, I have given a case history of one person. Just like what you said, a person whose father became Alzheimer's. He could not do anything, but then he remembered the early days of his father, which music he was listening to. So he got out all those old long play records and all, and he started playing. Father became better and better, so he had given me that so that I can share it with others. And I also had actually, I had about 25-30 patients I had seen. Of these, one of them, as I told you earlier, that my mother's elder sister was a Saraswati Samman poet. She had Alzheimer's for 5 years. In the initial stages, everybody was saying that she doesn't remember anything, nothing. So I thought, she is not a person who listens to music. She is not a music lover.
My mother said that.
So what I thought, but she is a poet, you know. She loves poetry. And I remembered while I was a kid, In the early morning hours during the Brahma Muhurta, she will get up and start singing Lalita Sahasranama. So I thought, I will try those two, music and not music, Lalita Sahasranama and poetry instead of music. So I just went to her and I just started saying the first stanza, Dhyana Sloka Sindhura, Sindhura Aruna Vigraha. Then immediately she looked up and started reciting the second line. So she remembers that, not the things that you go and tell her, that, remember me, I am so and so, I am so and so, she is not responding. But the moment you go and tell one stanza from the Lalita Sahasranama, she is responding. Then I started to tell her or sing to her some small pieces of poetry. When I sang 4 lines from her own poetry, and she said, so she hasn't lost her brain completely. She said, so beautiful poetry. And then I asked, Valyama, who had written this poetry? I asked. She said, it must be Vallathol, because such beautiful poetry can be written only by him. She doesn't remember that it was written by her, but she knows that it is beautiful poetry, and one of the best poets in the country is Vallathol. Those things are in her brain. So I understood that her part of her brain is still working. But that part has to be stimulated. Now, then I went to some centers, geriatric centers, Alzheimer's centers and all. Everywhere what I understood is that none of the patient's family know what their elders like in the younger ages. Unless they know that, we cannot help them. Because we have to rewind the memory. You are not trying a new. If I go and if I go to some person and give a new piece, their memory will not come. You have to give something which they know. So what they like, we don't know. So what we have to depend upon is the knowledge which the family members give. That is why I have given that Loknathan's history here. He is a very beautiful son. He remembered all the things that his father remembered. Liked. Now these people, that is why I said that music is a spiritual work. But music therapy is not only spiritual, but also a socio-political work. We are involving in a socio-political work to help the entire humanity. It is a peaceful media. Music is peaceful. Music as a peaceful media, we are promoting world peace, peace for the nation, peace for the entire humanity, a very cooperative type of cooperative movement in which all of us have to take part, no separatism, sexism, such an activity. So music therapy, though we are using the spiritual music, we are doing, music therapists are actually socio-political activists. We are not keeping any record or going to rebellion and all, because we are not that type of activists. We are very peaceful activists. Unless people recognize this, unless people recognize that this is a policy decision for the nation making, for the world peace, this is a global peace message that we are giving. It has got a very wide message. We start from a small home where there are people requiring this, then we are giving a message to the coming humanity. But there should be communication between the elders and the youngsters. That should start from schools and homes.